Okay, it's 2 minutes past 11. I think we're probably ready to begin now, if you are, Colin.
Yeah, all good by me, Alex, thanks.
Excellent. So, right, we'll just turn on camera for a moment. Okay, and good morning, everybody. And thank you for coming along. Welcome along to this webinar in partnership between Intelogy and LiveTiles, in which we'll be talking you through the challenges associated with bringing your frontline workforce into a more inclusive, modern workplace, bringing everyone across the organization together. My name is Alex Franklin. I'm a solution architect at Intelogy, and I'm joined here today by Colin Burke, who is the head of enterprise solutions from LiveTiles. Do you want to say hi, Colin?
Yes, hi everyone and good morning. My name is Colin Burke, and as Alex said, I head up enterprise solutions for LiveTiles in the UK. For those of you who don't know LiveTiles, we're a market leader in digital workplace solutions that produce a range of internal communications tools that improve better connectivity and engagement in the modern workplace. One of those tools is LiveTiles Reach, a pocket internet for frontline workers, which Alex and I will talk about later in this session. So I'm super excited to be co-hosting this webinar with Alex. So what have we got to look forward to over the next hour?
So we're going to talk through the problem to begin with, and then we're going to talk about the solution. So I'm just going to turn my camera off here and then start moving through and begin with the problem. And so organizations in various spaces, such as say manufacturing, retail, healthcare, or facilities perhaps, they can have separate camps in their business. There can be the frontline workers, those who are factory staff, warehouse staff, maybe shop front staff or nurses, and those that you could perhaps deem as corporate staff, those who have office-based desks, including those who maybe now work from home. Excuse me. And many companies are taking on the challenge of managing better communications and inclusivity. This is something we've seen rise quite sharply over the last year as well, where people are starting to really take this even more seriously and build up a way where they can have this better communication model across the organization, especially in cases where we now maybe have more people working from home or a hybrid setup perhaps where people are jumping between the two. And this can be challenging enough. But what about when we want to start including our deskless workforce, our frontline staff, bringing them in as well so that they're a part of this company culture in this single place? How do we make them feel the same level of inclusivity within our company and as anybody else? And there are a lot of cases where perhaps for various reasons, frontline staff maybe haven't been brought in up to date, up to now. And this can include a number of things. For example, it could be cost prohibitive, bringing staff in and the license fees when you have a very large frontline user base. It could be that you don't see a need for staff to have a company email address when they're on the front line, and setting them up with an account and giving them their own email address within your organization to get them into this might be seen as a bit much and no need. There could be, if you're using Microsoft 365 and you have a SharePoint driven approach maybe, or you're just using the Microsoft 365 tools, there could be quite a large admin or governance oversight for creating all of these additional accounts. And that can also lead back to the cost prohibitive nature of it. And as well, bringing everyone into this one place can then increase concerns over exposure to either irrelevant corporate data or confidential data as well. Having them in that same space can increase that risk, and there's a lot of work that's around that. And so how do we currently communicate with our frontline staff? There can be a lot of ways, as you probably know, but that can include things like posters in public areas. It could be printed newsletters that are made available, handed out, posted, whatever it may be. There could be regular but often infrequent town halls where we have a senior representative going out to sites and presenting and speaking to people. There may even be word of mouth, which works in some cases, it can be dangerous in others. But there can also be team communication channels. For example, manager-led update meetings, speaking to their team. But the trouble with all of this is they're very one way, they're very static, and they're pushing information down. They're not giving that opportunity to take it back up. And there's other things that lead from this as well. We have how they access their key information. How do they get forms, rosters, policies, etc. This again, it could be things like bulletin boards. It could be printed copies. And with that, it could be I need to access a form, so I have to go to somewhere, ask somebody for a form that's centrally held and then print it out for me, maybe. And I don't always know how to get this. I don't know how to get to this information. And so that's where we then start to build up a reliance on personal networks, asking people where I need to go and needing to find the right person. And there's all sorts of other stuff that comes with that as well, because I might get my paper copy, take multiple copies of this, but then that source record has been changed. I don't know, and I'm still using the old version. All of this stuff really links into the problem that there's no one single place to empower work and provide company inclusivity. And the problems that then stem from this is by not having these frontline workers and having our key staff involved and included with us, is that they don't feel truly connected to the business. This can then lead to them maybe feeling undervalued as a member of your wider team. There's limited effective idea sharing or feedback mechanisms because we've got that one-way approach. We're pushing information down and not allowing it to come back through this central portal. And that can stem out to what can often be a slightly unhealthy them and us culture within the organization because we've got this split divide of capability to be involved. And with all of that, lack of governance, lack of productivity, it can all lead from this and potentially reduce profits as well because we're not helping to make our organization better by having every voice involved. So what can we do about this? How do we bring our staff together into the same space with the same content, the same communications, and the same opportunities to speak up with confidence no matter who they are? How do we also do this in a way that ensures the appropriate controls are in place so that we can engage with everybody, we can target the right audiences at the right time, quickly and easily? Whether those audiences fall within our corporate or frontline areas, but maybe even including our customers in this same area as well, if we want to bring them in too. And this is where we introduce LiveTiles Reach. Colin, would you like to say a thing or two about LiveTiles Reach to get us started?
Absolutely, Alex, and that's a great overview of the frontline workers market and the challenges really in connecting frontline workers with the organizations they work for in really in the modern age. And I know you're a big fan of LiveTiles Reach, Alex, having done multiple implementations with Intelogy, and how LiveTiles Reach addresses a lot of the challenges that you just explained. Could you maybe talk to us a little bit about the solution and its benefits, if that's okay?
So the focusing really on the benefits here. So what we have is this single place. We have a single place that's accessible on any device, whether I'm using a phone, a tablet, a laptop, or a desktop. It's easy to access. You don't need a Microsoft 365 license for it. It's a fully hosted platform that we can have our corporate staff coming in with their corporate email accounts, but we can have our frontline staff coming in with their own personal accounts. And they're all coming to this same place where they can be informed, they can access knowledge, procedures, guidelines, they can engage with other users across the organization, and they can have communications targeted to them. So what is relevant to everyone is there, but what is relevant to me as an individual and my team is there too. We can integrate through thousands of third-party apps through APIs, bringing people in, allowing them to socialize in a platform that can be deployed in minutes. It's something that's fully hosted and is easily deployable and accessible by anyone on any device. And so let's see it in action. Now I'm going to run through a series of scenarios here. And this scenario is going to begin with a lady called Megan, who is a communications officer. She works for Contoso. She works for this company. They are a facilities management organization. And in her role as communications officer, she begins her day as most of her team do as well. She begins in Microsoft Teams. She's in here and she catches up on everything, but then she directly from Teams, within Teams, opens up Microsoft Reach. LiveTiles Reach, beg your pardon. And so this is our central place that everyone goes to. She opens up, she browses through the latest posts. We see here that we've got all of the news posts, all of the updates, everything that's being sent to different people through different channels. So I'm in the all channels at the moment, so I'm seeing everything, but I can jump and view different channels so that I've got subject-specific areas of information. And I can browse through and interact with these as I wish. But what I have to do here is Megan. She has 3 tasks that she needs to carry out here this morning. She, first of all, needs to send a company-wide announcement because we've got some great news that we want to share with everybody, everywhere within our organization. So she's going to manage news and she's going to create a new article. She has the ability to target this article to whoever is appropriate. And with targeting people or groups, this can be linked in with your corporate Active Directory, so we can feed that through and make it a bit easier. But what we have here is everyone. We need to send this announcement to everyone because we've been shortlisted for an award and we want to promote this good news to the organization. So I'm going to open up my news article and I'm going to enter my title. So we have some amazing news. And then Contoso has been shortlisted for Supplier of the Year. So it's all laid out very easily for Megan, and she wants to add an image. She can upload her own, or she can use a public royalty-free site such as Unsplash. And we want to celebrate. So I'm going to search, I find my image, and oops, I click there instead. And add my image as my banner. I'm just going to quickly edit that and bring that down a wee bit so that it's a bit more center stage. And then I can start to add the content to my message here as well. So she's going to add in the body text to promote everything that's going on and spread the happy word. We can add keywords to this so that it's searchable. We can add polls and we can choose whether or not we want people to be able to like or comment on this. And I do, because this is a piece of happy news. Now, our company is multilingual. We have several different languages that are spoken within our organization. So I want to make sure that this is accurately translated to those people. And in our organization, we've got it set up that we also have German and French speakers. You can have a huge number of different languages here, but I'm going to choose French. Now, when I open up here, it creates a second tab, and this is where I now want to start populating this with the French translation of what it is I'm doing. Now, some of you may ask about whether this does the automated translation here. Now, Reach does support automated translation, but what we have here is the ability to put a fixed translation. And in my experience over the years, when it's something that's an official communication, you are often better off having an actual translation in there, because automated translators, while they do an excellent job, you can't always guarantee that it's getting the tone of it for another language, or certain words, if they're put even slightly wrong, it can throw the context out of what it is you're doing here. So for news, for the official communications, we add our own translation in here. And then when we're ready to go, we publish. So that's my article now published. And what I'm now going to do is carry out my second task. So the second task that Megan has here is that she needs to post to the Tunbridge Wells office group to say that there's going to be a fire alarm at 11 o'clock on Monday. She has it saved as draft, so it makes her life quicker and easier. She can come in here, she chooses the channels that this is going to be posted in, so the subject areas that are relevant. And then further down, she has her text, everything's all happy here. And so she can publish that out. And you see, I've already sent this one through. But because it's going to the Tunbridge Wells office, it needs approval, because the people in that region need to be able to say, okay, yep, I'm fine with that. So you see up here, it's waiting for approval because I've sent it through, and it won't be visible until somebody then goes and approves this. Now, my final task is that we want to send a message out to our facilities staff. We want to make sure that they feel safe at work. And with everything going on with COVID, while we may be, fingers crossed, coming to the light at the end of this tunnel, we want to make sure people are still feeling safe. They still feel like they're being looked after. We have our message here, but what we can then start to do is add a poll in here. So as part of this news, I want people to respond and give us their feedback and check that they are being looked at, or they feel like everything is being dealt with as good as it can. So I add my question and I put my answers. I can set it to be a single or a multi-answer if I want to. And I'm going to add my second question, and then I'm going to add my third in here as well. So if I just take my other question here, so we'll put yes and no, and I'm going to give people the opportunity to say that they want us to contact them. If they have concerns, do they want us to get in touch with them directly? And we can see that result and then have it sent to us. And so I've got everything done. I've got my poll, and perhaps on this one, I don't want people to comment on here. I want stuff to come back directly from the poll. So I turn off comments. I then, when I'm done, I send this over to approval. And then once that's approved, it will then get fired out to everybody. They can interact with this, and they can then send us their feedback, and we can follow up with them as is necessary. So Megan has now completed her tasks. She has caught up on the daily news that's already there, and then she's still within Teams. She hasn't left. Away she goes to carry on with her day. So next, Alex Wilbur starts his day. He's just in the browser version of LiveTiles Reach. And if I just refresh my screen here, he opens up in the morning. And Alex is based in the Tunbridge Wells office. He's back office, he's desk-based, but he's French, and his preferred language is French. So as you can see, it's automatically translated this, because based on his profile that he's set up in LiveTiles Reach, he said that he prefers French, and so we have the automatic switchover so that I can see this great announcement here. We can see the good news that's coming. He can like, and he can post a comment in response as well, keeping it social so that it goes up through all the avenues there. Now, what he needs to do is he's responsible for updating a lot of elements of policies and procedures in the organization. And we have a new procedure that we've set up now so that when staff are having their regular COVID tests, they need to have an easy mechanism that they can then report back on that result. And so we want to make sure that when they have a positive result, they know what they need to do and where they need to go. So he will come into here in Pages. And this is where we set up all the pages like you would have on an intranet, the different places to go for the different pieces of information. He comes in here and browses through training videos to start his day so he can catch up on his training, play those videos directly in here if we want, maximize them, of course. But then we can click up here and browse through the contents of everything. So I see my training videos, but I go to where I need to work, and that's in COVID safety. And this is where I'm then updating the COVID testing page. So we have the existing procedure that sets out that we need people to do checks and let us know if they have a positive result, but we now have our form. So I'm going to edit this page, and then I'm just going to put in something here and say, important, if you have a positive result, you must self-isolate and complete this form. I can highlight the text in here, and I can embolden, and I can format however I wish. I can highlight my text here, and I can put in hyperlinks. We can add different headers, and in my next paragraph, if I want to, I can add in all sorts of different sections where I can put images, galleries, videos, insert documents as well. And I just check through my procedure so I can see that we've covered people for sick pay, because some of our staff are paid by the hour. So we want them to be made aware through this policy and procedure that they are covered and that we're here to help them. And we're all complete. I don't want people to like and comment on this. So I'm going to publish. That's my page updated. So now I can go back to my news here. And then this is where I, as Alex, am going to go to my news article that I've saved as draft. And so we want to promote and notify our staff. So people get notifications come through to them, push notifications, emails, when there's stuff that's relevant to them. So Alex has got his news article ready. He's got everything set here so that he can then fire this out. But the difference here is I want to make sure my staff have read this, and I want them to confirm that they've read and understood that if they're getting a positive result on their COVID test, they need to follow this. And so to do that, I've asked for confirmation through this box down the bottom here. With everything set, I publish. So my news is now published, my policy and procedure is now up to date, and I can now maybe come back through and start to browse through and catch up on the news. You can see we've got this notification up here now. So then Alex comes through, catches up on the news for the rest of the organization before then carrying on with his work. Now this has gone through these two levels. The third level comes down to Lee. Now, Lee is a member of the facility staff. His job day in, day out is he will come in the morning, he'll check the roster, he'll see what jobs he's got his plan of where he needs to go, what he needs to do. And so he comes in and browses through the news here. He sees as he scans through, we've got these updates that he's reading here. He sees that he's got a new team member that's been announced. So we see that Sajni's joined his facilities team in Tunbridge Wells. He clicks in on his phone because he doesn't have a desk. He has his own phone with his own personal email account. Skims through the information, reads up on Sajni, and then likes, and then says, welcome aboard. Posts his comment to welcome Sajni. Others can then get involved, share the conversation, and work together. So he's now caught up on the news. He sees this process at the top here, so he clicks there because it's one that requires his confirmation, browses through all the information. He sees the clear info about what he needs to do, and he's also reassured because he's been worried if he gets a positive result, what's going to happen, but sees that he's being looked after. He's read, he understands, and he confirms. So he's confirmed everything is done. Now he gets into his van and he heads out for the day and he carries out all of his jobs. But at the end of the day, he comes back and he thinks something isn't quite right here because his jobs of that day have sent him in so many different places and to so many different locations. He's traveled around, he's crossed over with a lot of other people, and he doesn't think this makes sense. There must be a better way of organizing our work here. So he comes into one of the more social back and forth elements here. He comes to posts. And this is where chats and conversations take place. So he loads up the posts for everyone here. He's browsing through. He sees we've got Nesta, who's posted about the CRM system. He sees a post here from Johanna. And this isn't in his language. He doesn't know what's being said here. So he clicks the translate button and it will automatically translate into his language. And this is where we have that difference because the social posts, it doesn't matter so much if things aren't quite in context because they're not official posts. When it's news, we have the static translation, but here it's generally okay. And this uses the same engine that you will find on many different places on the internet. I believe it's the Google translation engine that it uses. And so it's using the same technology. I see the post here. I can maybe get involved with the conversation. I can reply. I can like other comments. But right now, foremost on my mind is I want to post in the facilities staff channel for the conversations here. And this is what I have access to. Lee posts that on today's run, his list of jobs took him in loads of different directions. And it was the same for everyone else. And we're worried about the time it wastes, the petrol it wastes, and maybe we could be more punctual. Maybe we could do better if this was better organized. And so he posts his thought as a conversation. That goes through. Those that are members of that channel receive a notification. Alex receives that notification. He comes into the posts and he sees it there. So he thinks it's a great idea. So he posts a response. First of all, he's going to like Lee. He adds his reply. Thanks so much. You raise a good point. I've raised this with the team here, and we all agree that things can and should be improved. And we're going to look into improving the logistical planning of jobs. Watch this space. He posts that response to Lee. Lee receives a push notification on his phone when he gets home. He sees that, if I refresh my page, he's received a response from Alex in this channel. He's thrilled that he's been able to post something and get it seen by people up above that aren't necessarily within his chain. So he reads the response from Alex, likes it, and replies. Wow, fantastic, thanks. And if we want to, we can add an emoji in there to put a little smiley face, or we can add a GIF, so we can have a little animation in there, just keeping it informal, because these kind of channels, these kind of communications shouldn't be formal. Things work better when they're more personable. And so he posts his response here, and that goes back to Alex. So what we've seen here is a single place where we've very, very easily started off as someone who's in corporate head office. They have been able to post their communications and get them seen by those that need to see them, channel them to the right audiences with the right targets, with the right message, but allow for that two-way approach. We've seen it go through. We've seen another member who's been able to come in and update his policies and procedures that are accessible to the people that need it from this one place so that they can update them, communicate them further with those relevant, but then allow those people that receive them without having a corporate email account, without having a corporate device on their own phone, coming in with their own email account, to be able to consume that information, act upon that information, but then post back and then have that two-way conversation between everyone in the organization, allowing one platform, one inclusive place to go for everybody. And so that concludes the demonstration that I wanted to give of the end-to-end journey within this. There is a lot more to it, but at that point, Colin, has there been any Q&A on here at all?
Hi Alex, that's a great session. No questions really that have come through the Q&A, but maybe just a couple on my side actually, if that's okay. And feel free, anyone that's attended today's webinar, to put some questions in the chat if you have any queries. I'm quite keen to understand around the deployment of the solution, Alex. As you know, one of the key questions that comes up time and time again is when deploying a new internal comms platform, sometimes it can be very lengthy and there's a lot of complexity to the implementation. So in terms of LiveTiles Reach, how long does it take to implement and what's the process like?
Well, I think we probably categorize this between set up and implement. So the setting up is an absolute cinch. It can be done in minutes because there's nothing hosted with you. It's all hosted for you. And so you sign up, you get in, and then away you go. The process of connecting it perhaps to your Azure AD is incredibly quick. And then getting the system there, it can be done in a day. And it's very quick and easy. The implementation itself, that part again can be very rapid. You do just need to make sure that it's planned correctly for your organization, making sure you have the right people involved in getting this up and running and getting it working. And that's where we can help out to build that strategy, plan the channels, plan the groups, and then get the content in there before you go live. But technically speaking, you can have this there in a day. You just need to then spend the time getting it ready for your staff.
Excellent. And you've got a lot of experience, as does Intelogy, in that change management piece, which obviously is a big part of rolling out a new comms platform. How would you approach the change management piece, rolling out LiveTiles Reach into a new organization?
So the change management side and the way that we get this out and adopted and used in organizations is very similar to how you do it with any intranet, really. There are the added elements where we need to make sure that the communications are extended to the frontline staff who we really want to benefit. But a lot of it is about bringing in your champions, making sure that you have the right people that are going to own certain areas, planning why we want this, what we want to achieve, and why we want this to benefit our staff. Getting that content in there appropriately beforehand, getting the people that are the right owners for different areas, those that own the solution as a whole, and then planning how we're going to communicate it, how we're going to guide people. It doesn't really need training per se, because anyone that's used a social media platform can use this. So it's getting the right guidance, but keeping training there if people really need it, because you will have people that are perhaps more phobic perhaps of technology. And so getting all those routes covered, getting the content in, but then that's just where you begin, making sure that once it's out there and once it's being used, it continues to be used, keeping the momentum of communications, keeping this as that one place where news goes, getting people away from sending emails to staff, putting everything here. And then if you see areas that are maybe dipping, try to communicate more directly with them to keep that going and get the right people, the right levels of people with the credibility to be able to voice the message of good for this solution to then bring people in. So there's a whole wide scheme you can do. It's not just a startup process that you let run. It's something that you build it up, you get it ready, but you make sure you have that strategy for keeping it going once it's live to a point where it is a bit more self-sufficient.
Okay, that's an excellent answer. Thank you.
Okay, so I mean, actually, on that, Colin, maybe do you want to give a couple of examples of organizations that have got this out there at the moment already?
Yeah, very much so. So we've a range of customers using LiveTiles Reach across multiple industry sectors such as manufacturing, transport, and logistics, facilities management, and retail. So a lot of those organizations who've got desktop workers, but also lots of workers who are working on the front line as well. So in the UK, we rolled out Reach to Yorkshire Tea at the beginning of the year, and their 1,500 strong workforce up around the Leeds kind of area. We rolled it out to Tata Consumer Products last month, and later this month actually we're rolling it out to Walsall NHS Trust, and they'll be launching Reach to their 5,000 workforce in the Midlands. So employees such as ambulance drivers, canteen workers, and nurses will be connected with corporate news, events, surveys, and much more. Then on a global scale, a lot of big organizations use Reach as well. The likes of Foot Locker rolled out Reach about 6-12 months ago as well. The French energy company, Engie. So we've got lots of big brands using the solution as well. And as you say, it's that ease of implementation, ease of access, ease of publishing experience. And for anybody who's used a social communications platform, is very, it's very user friendly in terms of, its functionality and usability as well. So lots of different types of organizations across the UK, globally, but primarily it's those people trying to reach those frontline workers that benefit from the solution itself.
Awesome. So I don't think we have any further questions in there. So if I maybe move on to the final point, really just to emphasize here that what we've shown is the tip of the iceberg. There's a lot more that this product can do for you. We can really get this into your organization and get it as a key element to your company culture, your communications, and your working methods. And so just to re-emphasize as well, just bear in mind that the technology is perhaps only as good as what you put into it. You've got to keep that cultural change in mind as your priority, manage it and nurture it. And then once it's deployed, keep managing it, keeping it going, because you reap what you sow. And we at Intelogy and LiveTiles can be there to help every step of the way. And so if there are no further questions, I guess it's time for me to say thank you very much for joining us this morning. It's been really good to be here presenting to you. But if you would like to get in touch to talk further and in more detail about this, please reach out to either Colin or myself from the addresses on the screen. This session will be recorded and shared so that you can recap on any of the points of the demo, and you'll receive follow-up communications on there. So